So I've had some questions about the Crocodile Hunter lately. I have the page pulled up here. You can glance it over while I continue to talk here. But um, I wanted to check it out again. I haven't actually ran it in a little while, but I updated the lib bladeRF on the for the bladeRF, and I wanted to make sure everything still works and how stable it is and everything. So I hope to answer questions here that have been asked over on the SourceForge page and elsewhere. I'll probably break this up into two parts because there's actually another piece which I think I might have shown in the past where you could have a Crocodile Hunter, a central server, I guess you would say, set up, and you could have multiple instances of the Crocodile Hunter sending information to that one central SQL database to then show on a map. Although I don't know if the part of showing on the map was ever actually added to Crocodile Hunter. I can't remember. When you're sending information from multiple locations is what I mean. When we run Crocodile Hunter locally on DragonOS, yes, you can pull up a web page and see where this information is being plotted if you have everything configured correctly. So Crocodile Hunter, this is the repository here. You can see what it does or what it's meant to do to hunt these enode bees. The setup has pretty much already been taken care of in DragonOS. That includes GPSD setup, all the drivers for Lime SDR I've tested, EDIS radios, and the bladeRF here. Right now, I'm going to use the b205mini and a bladeRF, and I'll explain how they're set up. Uh, let's see. So I'll show what was kind of going on here in the background. Because I was testing it, I went ahead and left it up here. So I have Crocodile Hunter set up, and what you see on the screen here was using the bladeRF to look for the enode B that was being ran by a EDIS B205 mini using srsRAN, which is in the background here. I had the EPC running. I had the enode B running here. You can see on 2680, and of course if you're broadcasting anything you better have shielding or some sort of protection set up here, especially with cellular. You can see where I got a new burst at the same time the Crocodile Hunter detected. You can see 2680 found the cell ID, which is all configured in the srsRAN. So I'm doing a survey of the B205 mini in this case. I obviously, for various reasons, won't be doing a survey of anything outside of the little lab setup here. Okay, so just kind of that's what you're really kind of looking for here. You got the tower that's being added. That tower should then, if the Crocodile Hunter is running and I have debug on, I have disabled GPSD and disabled wiggle. That's those settings there. I just wanted to run and see if everything's working. So if I go to, let me see, I'm trying to remember here. Okay, port 5000. Once this is running, should be able to go to port 5000. Granted, you need internet for this map to work and to come up, and this information down here is being pulled from the database. In this case, the default project default, and I'll kind of explain that. You can zoom out. I don't have the GPS set, so it's like probably in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean or whatever there, or north, whatever that is, the Gulf of whatever. So, but that's kind of what you're looking for when this is running and working. So let's disable that for right now, and let's see. Yeah, okay. So on DragonOS, in the user source, Crocodile Hunter source folder is where everything is pretty much pre-configured and compiled and built. There's a couple things if you read on the page we can try here. So the build is already taken care of. You can see the usage, the web UI, driver installation, configuring GPSD. Okay, so let's say you want to do that. Let's pull open another terminal here. So if you use sudo and you look at the etc default GPS, I guess it would help if you used a editor, etc default GPSD. So probably one of the first things you want to do here is check out the GPSD file, which is not set to really anything right now. What you could do is you could blank out the GPSD options there, uncomment the ones I've stuck in for Crocodile Hunter, and you would want to make sure your GPS device is coming up as TTY USB 0 and not USB 1 or whatever else it might be. You want to make sure GPSD is working. So if I save this file and I don't have a GPS plugged in, you should be able to system control enable GPSD service, and that'll make sure that's running when you reboot DragonOS. And then that might have went ahead and already, let's see, restart GPSD service. So you'd have your GPS plugged in, you'd restart the service, and then you could open something like let's see, X GPS, and you would want to get make sure you've got a fix here. Matter of fact, you could probably even install CGPS or have XGPS running in the background, making sure you've got a good fix, a good stable fix, and that it's just maintaining that fix. You could even minimize it. Then just keep this in mind. Then you could start Crocodile Hunter and run it, because if you don't have a fix and you're trying to use GPS with Crocodile Hunter, it'll try for a little bit and it'll time out and it'll exit the program. So maybe a little workaround is keep open XGPS in the background to make sure you've got that fix. Okay, let me see what else. Project setup, that's already pretty much taken care of. Database setup, yep, already taken care of. I don't use Docker, it's all installed in DragonOS. Next thing we want to do is, if we look in that user source Crocodile Hunter folder, let's see if I can make this a little bigger here. You're going to see there's a few things here. We want to take a look at the config.ini. Now, I ran this application once, so when you first open config.ini, it's going to look like this backup file I stuck here, the example. It's going to look like this. Okay? It's going to look like that. So what I recommend is, if you just run Crocodile Hunter one time, even if you don't put anything on it, it's of course going to fail. Just run it one time, let it fail. It will kind of take all the comments out of your config file, so on and so forth. So you'll end up with something like this, minus the default entry here. That's for the project, because I didn't specify a project name, so it just stuck default in there. The ERF, this part here, will not be there. You need that. So if you don't want to use GPSD and you just want to use a GPS location where you are at, now granted, you're not going to get the advantage of probably the trilateration or whatever, driving around getting readings from different locations. You're just going to have a GPS location set in for you where you are at statically. You could put that in right here. That's going to center that map and then base things off of that location. I wouldn't change the MySQL thing unless you're wanting to get in there and make the password more secure or whatever. But that shouldn't really be running outside of your network anyways, unless you're looking to set up that server client thing I'm talking about, at which point you probably want to use a VPN or something anyways. The Wiggle name and Wiggle key, this is just the default. If you go into the Wiggle website and you set up and get a key and a name, and there's information out there on the internet how to do that, you will put that here. You can get a free account, which will limit some queries. I don't know to how many, but Crocodile Hunter will use that to go out and query the Wiggle database based on your GPS location, whether that's from GPSD or this here, and then pull back the tower results that it has in the database, which will help when you're trying to compare what you're seeing with your software-defined radio versus what has been kind of put into the Wiggle database as possibly towers that are normally there. The OpenCell ID key, you can sign up and get an account there. That's where you would put that. That's another thing to bounce stuff off of. Project, pretty much none of this other stuff I have really changed. You might maybe sometimes, especially if you're which I've already kind of set this, if you're running this on the DragonOS on the Raspberry Pi, you probably want to set the crash timeout up a little higher. You can look up what geographic codes means, and then the expected MCCs and MNCs. You can read about that on the page here, and what somewhere here it'll more information about what that will provide for you. What I did though for this demonstration, because I don't have it linked to Wiggle, Wiggle would also pull in and update all this information here, the frequency, well, yeah, it'll update this information here based on your location and what's in there. So that way your SDR is changing around to all the different things it needs to hit, and looking at that. Right now, this is only on 3350 and whatever frequency that is, 2800. So that's all that's going to happen here. But that would be a huge list if you were configured for Wiggle, or you could do your own surveys and fill that out. You'd do it just like the example was. You'd have to put a comma there and put more. GPSD I don't change. API, maybe I'll talk about that in a second video. That's where that host client thing comes into play. But just to get this going, you're going to want to at least have under the, if you've created the project default, you're going to want to do that. Now if I start this up again and I specify a project name with a -P, and we just say YouTube because we're doing it on here, and we take a look at config file. Now we see we have this YouTube here, and just like I mentioned, you'd put that in. That's also has put that into the what is it, MariaDB database. So we'll leave that here. It should be fine if I don't run that project without having some information in there. Let me think, what else? We could try the import known towers. So let's give this a shot. I haven't actually did this before. This script should be in the directory here. You can see get FCC towers. But I think it would need the GPS location to really do much of anything. So let's see. Let's look up we'll just put let's see, GPS, can't remember what order. Let's see, so let's put let's see, 46. I just looked up a state on online real quick here. Nothing in particular, just want to show. So let's see what happens here. So we have a GPS location. Let's take a look. Okay, we need to do sudo getting towers, and then let's see. We're going to add those known towers, default, and we use that CSV file. Added 4 known towers. So it added those towers to the database, which if everything was lining up, that it should be on the map in the area that we were looking at, and those are FCC known towers. All right, I don't think I ever covered that before. We'll save the API and stuff discussion for another video. I think that's enough talking right now. So I have the b205mini and the bladeRF plugged in. What I'm going to do is start up the EPC first. That way it'll generally grab the b205mini. So, and then I'll start the ENB. Now I'll come over here to Crocodile Hunter, and the bladeRF is plugged into the same computer. And we will run, well, we don't have any GPS device plugged in, so I'm not going to worry about that. I got that disabled, and I have wiggle disabled, and I have it on debug. Now it's going to look a little different when you have GPS and you have it, everything configured like I've talked about for however many minutes now. So yeah, you might see something like this because I had configured and built Crocodile Hunter when bladeRF was, it's a long story, but it's fine. I'll probably rebuild it again. But now you're seeing Crocodile Hunter run, and it's finding that b205mini that's creating that tower there. And if I come over as that's running, we're going to see we're out here somewhere, and that tower, because of where I put that, let me think this through. I just put some random GPS location there, so it's, oh, okay, it's imported. Those are the towers that were imported, and then this is probably from where I first ran it, and it's not going to really look accurate unless you're having everything lined up in GPS and all that. And I just got this configured for the video here just to show it running. You can see more information about the tower, its sightings, the signal to noise ratio, frequency, all that information there. Cells, B's, and then combines not really implemented yet. You can also see if we can recalculate. You can do some calculations here. I'm trying to think what else. You can add known towers. You can imported. So that's imported. Okay. So I'll get more in depth on the next video. if I have time to talk about this tool again. But hopefully that answers some questions and shows that seems to run pretty good with the bladeRF without having to make any changes to DragonOS. Um, Using the UHD SOAPy device. If there was any problems, I could go in, I could rebuild Crocodile Hunter and use the bladeRF driver specifically, but this seems to be working fine right now. So, all right, well, thanks for hanging in there. Hopefully this is helpful.